Please note, for maximum picture quality, it may be necessary to adjust the tracking control on your VCR.
Hello and welcome to Adjust Your Tracking, a podcast where we're on an adventure to watch a century of cinema, decade by decade, year by year. And I am Oliver Jones, and not with me is Liam Delaney, but I have a special co-host with me today, and that is...
James Raynor.
How you doing, dude? You okay?
Yeah, I'm not too shabby, thanks. You?
Yeah, I'm good. I was thinking of doing like a really elaborate intro, because Liam always does like a little fun and games at the beginning, like a little... I don't know, little sonnet, a little poem. I don't know. I'm not very good at writing, so if it was a video intro, I could have inserted me and you into like a Harryhausen film or something like that. That would have been fun.
I think you've done enough animation this month.
That's true. Yeah.
And yeah, my
fingers are still dry. Like plasticine, believe it or not, dries your fingers out. So, did I tell you the one thing I did on the music video? So like, because I was doing like from 9 till 3 in the morning, like 9 a.m. till 3 in the morning, like animating. I was pretty tired, and I'd say halfway through the animating process, Caroline went to work one day, and I saw her off, and I said goodbye. And I thought, oh, I need the toilet now. So went upstairs to go to the toilet, because we live in a flat, and started to have a wee, and then realised, oh, this isn't the toilet. This is the bin. So I pressed the button, because it's one of those button bins that goes like it kind of shoots up the lid. And I started weeing, and I was thinking, like, it was only like a 2 second, 3 second thing. I was thinking, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So yeah, that's how sleep deprived I was.
Well, you have hit upon what could be an excellent pattern of like the pedal powered toilet lid.
Yeah, that's a good idea actually.
Yeah. I'd be down with that.
So what have you been up to? Anything?
Not a great deal. I've been working on my film Heads Are Popping, which you also worked on. You were the DP. I think I've pretty much reached the limit of what I can do right now. So we need to do a couple of pickup shots, but not very. It's not the best environment for that kind of thing, especially since I need to travel down to London. So we're just kind of waiting to see what happens with that.
I'll tell you what, it is looking really good though, like really good. And like,
thank you.
You should probably tell the folks how you like, I don't know, maybe how you came up with the idea and then how you got the money to make it.
Well, it began when I was trying to kill either myself or everyone around me whilst I was working in retail.
With your mind.
Yeah, it was just an absolute nightmare. So rather than do either of those things, I decided to just write scripts at work and incorporate a lot of the bullshit that I had to deal with into the script. And that kind of just kept expanding until it was originally meant to be 10 minutes. It ended up being a 35-page script. And then people who read it seemed to really enjoy it, so I thought we could probably take it forward. And then Fright Fest, probably the preeminent horror festival in the UK, was doing a competition in association with Genera Films, who are a funding company that kind of cut out all the bullshit. You don't have to go through all the development process with them. It's just submit your pitch, and if they like it, they'll give you some money. Although it's all usually done online, this was a live pitch in front of judges at Fright Fest, and signed up for shits and giggles, wasn't expecting to get anywhere, and we ended up being put through to the finals. And the other day, it was the 1 year anniversary of us doing the pitch and winning and getting £1,000 towards the budget, which is about £1,000 more than I usually spend on my films.
I heard though from Matt though when we were making the film that you were like, oh, is there any budget left over? Because I want to get this special edition Blu-ray, blah 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 blah.
I mean, that's usually my first instinct is like, what can I contribute towards the film, but also
what can I get out of it?
Yeah, this Dawn of the Dead box set that's coming out.
Yeah, I need to pre-order that. I don't know if I've missed my window. Hope not, because I
don't think so.
Because I assume as soon as that's out and it's sold out, it's going to be one of those ones that skyrockets in price. So I need to get.
I mean, like a dickhead, I've pre-ordered it both on Blu-ray and 4K.
How much is it? I thought you'd get the 4K and Blu-ray together. Is that?
Well, I don't have a 4K player, so I've got no reason to buy the 4K. But I figure I will eventually get one, so it's best to invest. But I also want the Blu-rays to watch now. Yeah.
Physical media.
And I've already paid for the Blu-rays because I ordered those through the Second Sight website. So that money's gone. I have no attachment to it anymore, so I might as well pre-order the other one since that's in a couple of months, and I have no attachment to that money either.
So just going back to Heads Are Popping.
Yeah.
For those of people who don't know, it's probably pretty much self-explanatory, but it's about a girl who basically somehow gets the powers to
just the increasing frustration with the bullshit that is existence inspires her to suddenly be able to explode people's heads.
Man, if you made this film set in 2020, I don't think there'd be anybody left alive. Everyone apart from her would be dead.
Yeah, the second she got on a bus, just the entire thing would detonate like a Bond film. It's it's kind of got more relevant in the rise of the absolute selfish jackass over the last 6 months. Yeah, so
the animated intro sequence is really cool. I like the fact that you see me getting my head explode.
I
was looking at the pictures, like, hang on, that looks a lot like Matt. What's the sound guy called? What was his name?
We had two. We had
the main
Paul.
Guy.
Paul was the main guy.
Yeah, because that looks like Paul, and I thought, hang on, that's me.
Yeah, that was done by my buddy who was also in the pits of hell with me at Staples and Office Outlet. He's an animator. He goes under the name Jake Lava. You can check him out on YouTube.
No, it's really, really good. Yeah, the other sound guy, I just remembered he drank as much, or if not more, Pepsi than you do. Like, I've never seen anyone chug so much Pepsi in all my life.
It's the drink of kings.
So have you watched any films this week?
I watched Deep Blue Sea 3.
Oh my! There's a third one.
Yeah, it just came. It's been out on VOD for a while, but it just came out on Blu-ray this week, or DVD over here. The UK wasn't good enough to get a Blu-ray release.
So you know how like is it LL Cool J in the first one?
Yeah.
And then is it? Oh, it's Sam Jackson as well. So what caliber of actor have you got in?
There's nobody of note in the third one. The second one had an actress who's in Chicago Fire, I think.
Is that like an American kind of like crime drama thing or something?
Yeah, it was Station 21 or something. Station 19. It's the Grey's Anatomy spin-off.
Okay.
Yeah, Morag watches all those fucking bullshit shows, and I have to sit with them. But I actually really liked the actress in this. She was the one holding. Well, this is Deep Blue Sea 2. She really held that together with her performance. She was really trying to make you believe that this essential remake of the original is just as good, and it wasn't. It was pretty wank. But the third one I really enjoyed. It's set on this kind of floating fishing village, which was kind of a unique twist. The first one is set in another underground science facility, so it looks and sounds like just like a cheaper version of the first one. But the third one's got a bit more of a sense of humor. It's got a good callback to Sam Jackson's death in the first one.
Okay, that's my favorite thing in the first one, because in the director's commentary you've got Sam Jackson in it until the moment he dies, and he's like, "Right, I'm going to see it, mate."
Yeah, this character gives a rousing speech and then is immediately offed by a shark. It's a good moment, and the final shark's demise is pretty spectacular. I haven't seen that in a shark movie.
How the shark affects it?
I read somewhere that it was a combination of CG and practical, but I think there's one dead shark that's practical and the rest is CGI. And it's weird, like some of the shots look really good, like A-movie caliber, and then there's some that look just as bad as the stuff in the first one. There's
so many like stock CGI sharks you can probably buy that are probably quite like highly detailed. I remember
they're using bull sharks in Deep Blue Sea 2 and 3, which is unusual. Usually everyone goes for the great whites and bull
mixing
sharks.
It up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those Shark Attack movies, and there was one with John Barrowman in. But like the effects,
the third one.
The effects look like just Photoshop sharks that just pop out.
I believe that was. I'm sure I read that somewhere that they actually had. I mean, I've done that. I've had to do effects in Photoshop before, but I had £4.50 to do the entire film. I'm sure the Asylum has got slightly more than that.
Now you've raised the bar with what you've been watching. What else did you want? Like, it can only go down.
I can't even remember. Oh, I watched Fearless Hyena, Jackie Chan's first film as a director.
Oh, nice.
That was pretty good. You can really tell because a previous Jackie Chan film I watched before that was Snake and Crane Arts of Shaolin, which was one of the ones he made before he had a big hit. And he's not the action director on that, and you can really tell it's still the kind of, very poised style of kung fu that's all about the stances and the moves rather than it looking like people are actually fighting. Whereas now he's directing it, it really steps it up a notch. It's a lot more fast paced, and you can it looks like people are trying to hurt each other.
Yeah, because like earlier on in his career, wasn't he kind of like, because he's in Fists of Fury, isn't he? He does like one of the.
He's in a few Bruce Lee movies.
Yeah, and then I think he then becomes the same character as Bruce Lee in Fist of Fury.
Yeah,
like
that's actually that's coming out on Blu-ray in November or December, I think. New Fist of Fury.
So was it like until like Drunken Master or around that era where he kind of found his kind of like that was when he found his groove?
He initially started working with Lo Wei, who was the guy who discovered Bruce Lee. He'd made The Big Boss and Fist of Fury and all that kind of stuff. And he was really trying to mold him into be the new Bruce Lee, which he wasn't. He's a lot more lighthearted than that. He's got his own style of fighting that he wanted to do. And Lo Wei was just trying to force him into this box. And all the films they made together flopped. Didn't make any money. So eventually Lo Wei just got pissed and kind of loaned him out to another studio who were happy to embrace the comedic side of it, and they made Snake and the Eagle Shadow and Drunken Master, and that's when it went through the roof. And that's when Jackie Chan fucked off to another studio.
I'm trying to think what I've watched. Like doing this music video, I haven't really watched anything.
Yeah, I think you've had your time.
But on Sunday, I just sat in bed and just watched Film 4.
Oh, yeah.
And How to Train Your Dragon was on. I don't know if you've seen How to Train Your Dragon.
I haven't. I've heard good things, but I've never quite got around to watching it.
It's probably in my top 10 favourite animated films of all time. It's such a wonderful film, like so well directed and well acted and stuff. I mean, they're Vikings who the adults have Scottish accents and then all the kids have an American accent. So, I mean, as long as you can get past that, it's all right. But it's a wonderful little story. Then I watched Paddington. I don't know if you've seen Paddington.
I haven't, no.
But it's directed by, I think it's a guy who did a lot of Mighty Boosh.
Oh, yeah, the first one.
And he did
one as well.
Bunny and the Bull.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see that for years. That was on at one of the film festivals that I worked at, and when I was on the information desk. So I saw that trailer 900 times that week. It was just constantly looping on the TV behind me.
I'm trying to think what his name is. Paul King, that's his name, and I think he did both. I think he did both the Paddingtons, but I mean, it felt very much like a lot of those 90s kind of British kids films where they're kind of set in the modern day, but they've got their foot in like the 50s or whatever, a bit like The Borrowers or something like that. So it's kind of like it's neither here nor there. But it definitely kind of apes a bit of Wes Anderson as well, but a bit more saturated. So like a lot of symmetrical shots and things like that.
Oh, really?
I think they doubled down on that more in the second one, but I haven't seen it.
I thought you just meant it was twee as fuck.
It's quite twee. But, there's a lot of CGI because obviously Paddington Bears.
Yeah, I have seen a shot of him riding down a tidal wave in a bath on the stairs.
That's in the first one,
yeah.
It's all right. It's got a guy from Downton Abbey as the lead. It's got Julie Walters. I think Nicole Kidman's the main villain. And I think she has about 3 scenes. Actually, the final scene reminded me of the showdown. Have you seen Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom?
Yes.
And they're on top of the building and they've got that weird fucking raptor thing that's... Indoraptor. It's pretty much exactly the same, but it's with Paddington Bear and Nicole Kidman. The same. But,
you might have just sold me on Paddington.
There's a setup earlier on where he's like, because he eats marmalade sandwiches, and like he's waiting. He's at Paddington Station and he's feeding the birds his marmalade sandwich. And at the end, like they think they're about to get killed by Nicole Kidman. Spoilers. But he notices some pigeons there, and he's got a marmalade sandwich in his hat. So he pulls out the marmalade sandwich and throws it at Nicole Kidman and then the birds.
The old Home Alone 2 move.
Yeah. Then I watched The Hunt. I don't know if you've seen The Hunt.
Oh, the
Blumhouse
the hunting humans thing that got pushed back after one of the rare outbreaks of American violence.
Yeah, it was pretty shit, to be fair, though. Like, there's a load of films in this kind of vein. So you've kind of got You Running Man, I guess the Hunger Games, Battle Royale, where kind of people are on they're in a foreign territory where they're kind of given weapons and they've got to defend themselves against people or each other or whatever. And
isn't it meant to be like a right wing?
Yeah, that's
type?
basically
It's
it.
all the Trump voters that are getting hunted.
Yeah, that's basically it. So it's left-wing people who kind of are the hunters, and then like rednecks as the hunter. I don't know what is it. I don't know. As the prey.
Yeah.
And the main woman, though, I think, like, spoilers. I don't know if you're gonna watch it, but they fuck up and they pick the wrong girl, but has the same name as her. So it's not a right-wing kind of prissy girl they pick. They pick this kind of hard as fuck kind of girl who's, I think she's in Glow. I don't know if you've seen Glow.
Yeah, I've seen like the first few episodes of it, and then I got distracted, and I never got around to finishing it. But, I did like it.
Apparently, she's very good in Glow, but I didn't think she was very good in this. But it's got Hilary Swank in it as well. I quite like Hilary Swank normally. I haven't seen her in much recently, actually. It's got Randy from My Name Is Earl. Ethan Suplee.
Oh, Ethan Suplee, who's jacked as fuck now.
Yeah, he doesn't look very jacked in this, but he is clothed. But yeah, he is hench now. And it was written by Damon Lindelof, from Lost.
Oh yeah,
and I think he's done Watchmen now and Leftovers and stuff. But yeah,
he's kind of redeemed himself with Watchmen, I think.
Yeah, not with that film.
Was it the film, not the TV show?
No, the film is in The Hunt. He wrote.
Oh, okay.
But apparently Watchmen's really good, so I need to get on that.
Yeah.
But that's about it, really. Other than
I also watched Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Hey, I haven't seen that in years. I like the first one quite a bit, but
I hadn't seen the second one since it was on Sky Movies back in the day, and everyone always shits on it, but it's not that bad. It's got some good moments in it.
I'm a big fan of Andrew McCarthy. Like Mannequin, like this is I'm gonna admit something right now. Mannequin is one of my like I said in a few weeks ago, one of my favourite films if I'm feeling a bit shit is Empire Records, but my ultimate feeling shit film and I want to feel good is Mannequin. So like when I was a kid, I used to be like really ill with asthma. And my mom found out that one way to help me was like just to calm me down was to stay up with me all night and we'd watch films. And we didn't have many VHSs in the house, so the only ones we had was Home Alone, so that was always being watched.
Yeah.
Big, Turner and Hooch, Roger Rabbit, Ghostbusters 2, Weird Science, and Mannequin. So those were the. Did I say Roger Rabbit? All those are the only ones that would rotate. But then my dad,
I grew up above a video shop, so I had a few more options downstairs.
Oh yeah, my dad though, the ultimate bastard. You know how you could put sellotape over a VHS?
Oh
so
to record.
He recorded over my Mannequin tape. So furious. I was proper pissed off. So yeah, today we are deviating from our normal curriculum. I don't know. Is that right?
That sounds
yeah.
description.
So I wasn't on the last podcast, and Brandon stepped in, and they chose to do the Orson Welles film F is for Fake, and so I thought I'd pick one of my heroes. Like he is genuinely one of my heroes, and that is Ray Harryhausen, who is like a stop motion special effects like legend genius. And I've chosen the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, which I think is from 1973.
I think, yeah.
4. I watched not a making of, but a documentary about Ray Harryhausen today, and it said 1974 in the little brackets when it was.
Everything I've seen says 73.
Yeah, same. So anyway, what's your history with
doing the research?
What's your history with Ray Harryhausen?
Honestly, even though I'm well aware of who he is, I haven't actually seen that much of his work. I remember seeing Clash of the Titans when I was a kid. But, the majority of his stuff, well, a significant portion of his stuff is the kind of swords and sandals kind of fantasy stuff, which you really have to force me to watch. Like Conan the Barbarian is about as far as I journey into that particular genre. But yeah, I don't watch Game of Thrones. I don't watch The Witcher or anything which involves swords and magic and wizards and bullshit. It's not really in my ballpark. I watched Lord of the Rings because Peter Jackson directed it, and I haven't seen them since they came out, I don't think. So yeah, most of Harryhausen stuff is in that genre. He made a few Sinbad films, didn't he? He did Jason and the Argonauts, and then there's Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, like, so his first film he made when he was 13, I think, and it was he was obsessed with King Kong, and Willis O'Brien, who was like a famous stop motion animator, I think, did like, was it The Lost World, like in the early 20s or late 20s, and then obviously like King Kong was like the biggest film of all time at that point. And as a young 13-year-old, he was probably really like enamored by it, and I think he's obsessed with dinosaurs and that, and so God knows how he acquired the cameras and stuff like that, unless his family were fairly minted. But yeah, he created this Brontosaurus, and if you actually look at it, like thinking, how the fuck did a 13-year-old create this back in the day? And he used like, you know, one of those bendy lamps.
Oh yeah,
like, he used one of those in the neck and stuff like that. And he made this short film called Evolution, and it was just about just a brachiosaur or Brontosaurus just milling about, and it's got like. But the thing is though, the sets that he built, you could see there was something that, you know, he was very gifted at this, and like he had like pterodactyls flying around, so he was very much about setting the scene and character and stuff like that.
He did seem like it wasn't just an animator; he was like a proper filmmaker. He had the techniques all worked out, and he, I mean, he pioneered a process, Dynavision, wasn't it?
Dynamation or something like that.
Dynamation,
It's such a bullshit term, like, because apparently the producer that he worked with, predominantly Charles Schneer, came up with. Apparently, he was driving his new Buick, and it had like the word Dynaflow on the dashboard, and he just took the flow off it and called it, you know, Dynamation. And so yeah, in the 50s, they're always coming up with new ideas just to get new audiences to come and watch their films, and yeah, that's what they came up with. And basically, it's just a way of mixing live action with stop motion in colour.
Oh, so yeah, it's not an actual process. It's not like Go Motion or anything like that.
No, Go Motion, I think, was pioneered by
that was
Phil Tippett, and that was basically by putting motion blur into the movement. Because, not to get too ahead, but like if you watch any of Ray Harryhausen's special effects, as amazing as they are and how brilliant they look, they don't quite sit in the frame, and that's because there's no motion blur. Like they're very kind of full focus, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the thing out of the stuff I've watched over the last couple of days.
So even if it's a character standing in a background of something which is out of focus, that character will always be in focus because the way he has to shoot, he's basically, I don't know, rear projecting or projecting the footage on the background and animating in the foreground. So it always has to be in focus no matter what. And then because of that, because it's technically a second or third generation of footage, then the footage then looks kind of a bit out of focus or a bit softer compared to like the actual creature or character.
Although there was one shot in this Sinbad film where he appears to have done like an out of focus foreground with the creature.
Oh, is that the little ape thing with the
little
wings?
Homunculus thing? I think it's called the Homunculus, the little bat creature thing that does all the spying. We'll get to it.
But so then I think he managed to meet Willis O'Brien, and like he said, look, go to university, study like anatomy, you know, all this kind of stuff, and do some animation courses. I don't even know if there was animation courses there, but anyway, he went to uni and did all this stuff. And then apparently he got drafted into the army, but I don't think he was actually on the front lines or anything like that. I think he was. Apparently, he worked with Frank Capra.
Yeah.
Colonel Frank, was it Colonel or General Frank Capra? Obviously of what did he do? My mind's gone dead.
He was a photographer. Well, he filmed a lot of like propaganda stuff. I don't know if he actually cut the films together, but he was a definite cameraman on the front lines.
Well, I know they did a lot of films like basically showing you how to use the equipment. So like I don't know whether there were animations or like just filmed like, you know, this is how you load a missile into a missile. I don't know.
There was a bunch of the old Capra war films they made on Netflix that like compiled them into like a 6-episode series or something.
Right, okay.
Still there. This was a couple of years ago when I saw it, but yeah, that's so not like so many things. I would check them out if I ever remembered.
So not to sound like an asshole, but yeah, he did like It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and stuff like that. So he was kind of like, apparently, you know, back in the day, he was like, you know, he did like your big films, basically, like the big spectacle films. Well, not spectacle, but like the films that...
Yeah, the beloved films.
Beloved films. But apparently at the time, he was kind of considered a bit of a joke.
Well, It's a Wonderful Life was a massive flop at the time.
Was it a flop?
I don't know if it was an absolute flop, but it definitely barely scraped its money back. And, you know, it was... Nobody gave a shit about It's a Wonderful Life for decades until some TV channel in the 70s
just kept playing it.
Yeah, played it, like, did a 24-hour marathon of it. Like this, and that became a Christmas tradition, and that's when people started considering it a classic.
They do that a lot in America with what's that? Is it A Christmas Tale?
Christmas Story.
That's it.
Bob Clark one.
It never really came over here, did it? Really?
No.
I mean, I've seen. Every time I put it on, I fall asleep watching it.
I've never actually seen it anywhere to try and watch it.
Yeah, anyway, Harryhausen. It's also worth noting that Ray Harryhausen's dad actually machined all of his armatures, dating from the start of his career till up until I think maybe this film. Definitely like 73 was the last time that he made armatures for Ray. And his mum actually made all the soft goods for all the stop motion characters, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, then he ended up working with Willis O'Brien on Mighty Joe Young, but I haven't seen Mighty Joe Young, but you have, so maybe...
Yes, I bought the Blu-ray a while ago from, it's in HMV's premium collection. So I picked it up a while ago, but I never got around to it, and being asked to guest on this podcast finally spurred me to get around to it, and it is a really good film. Like I saw the remake years ago, I can't really remember.
Oh, the one with Bill Paxton?
Bill Paxton, yeah.
I saw that one.
But yeah, the original, it's crazy how many effects are in that.
Really?
Like pretty much every shot is an effects shot. Between Joe Young himself and when he's brought back to America and he's put into this nightclub as a kind of nightly attraction, the nightclub itself is a special effects because it's this huge, it's almost like a warehouse, and it's themed around Africa, so there's trees everywhere. And there's lions in these glass cages along the sides of the bars and things, and it's all a combination of like miniatures and stop motion and mats of the live lions behind these panes of glass and rear projection and the crowds. It's all matted together, and so pretty much every shot in that.
So he's not King Kong big, is he?
No, he's a lot bigger in the remake.
I remember him being quite
slightly
big.
Yeah, he's slightly bigger than a normal gorilla in the original, but he's got a lot of character, and I think that's what Harryhausen brings to his work.
I mean, like from the Harryhausen films I've seen, I haven't seen that many to be honest, but I've seen every single animated sequence he's done. Do you know what I mean? Like that's like, you know, his films. Let's face it, they're not great, and they probably have dated quite a bit.
Yeah.
But his work is phenomenal in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I mean that's
and the acting that's portrayed by his stop motion characters is miles above anything that the real actors can give or portray. Do you know what I mean? Like
apart from maybe Tom Baker, he's acting.
It took me a few seconds to I was like,
yeah, me too.
Who's that?
I saw him in the credits. But
anyway.
The thing is, when he first did his wide eyes thing, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's Tom Baker."
So yeah, so after Mighty Joe Young, I think he did quite a lot of.
Although he wasn't actually he wasn't the main guy. He was
Willis a technician O'Brien, on that, I think.
Yeah,
so,
Willis O'Brien was credited, but apparently he
probably offloaded a lot of it to Ray Harryhausen.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of technical issues, as you can imagine, if the entire fucking set is just a conglomeration of various effects shots, so he had to deal with a lot of the technical stuff, and Harryhausen actually did the majority of the animation on Joe Young, and you can really tell, like, even though Joe Young and Sinbad are the only two Harryhausen films I have any memory of because I just watched them in the last 48 hours, you can really see the connection between the two in the way they're animated and the movements and the expressive-ness.
Well, his movements were a lot more nuanced. Whereas if you watch
especially
King Kong,
compared to the original Kong,
it's like they try and do nuanced performances with it, but it's very like amateurish kind of like he'll just like rub his head or whatever, like, but it was very quickly done without too much thought between the in-betweens, like how he gets to that position and how he gets out of it. It's very much like, I'm going to scratch my head now, and he just quickly scratches it without kind of the nuance of going into it and coming out of it.
Some of it in Joe Young and Sinbad, you'd think was motion capture with kind of the movement of it.
I mean, we'll get to it, but that statue with the blades is amazing. But anyway, so after that, he did a fair few like sci-fi films, because I think kind of fantasy films they kind of gave way to like the 1950s kind of obsession with like flying saucers and stuff. I mean, let's face it, everything he did was a B movie pretty much, wasn't it? It wasn't like a blockbuster film. He always had a very small budget, but I think the way that he was able to make his films was that they didn't have stars in them. They pretty much had like 2 or 3 locations, and he did all the effects like no one else.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That he basically animated alone for most of it.
And he lived in London, so he was outside of the Hollywood system. And so his first film in the 50s was The Beast from 2,000 Fathoms, which was kind of like a dragon-y kind of creature that obviously came from the depths of the sea. And it made a change, because normally they'd just throw like lizards on green screens or whatever it was at the time and put those on. But he like created an amazing like stop motion creature.
I haven't seen it, but I think Joe Dante uses a clip of it in Gremlins 2.
Following that, there was It Came from Beneath the Sea, which is wicked, because I'm obsessed with like krakens and tentacle monsters, not in a Japanese pervy way, but like I'm a big fan of stuff like that. And then he did
that's the octopus with 6 arms, isn't it?
Yeah, because he said because of budget constraints.
Like, fuck that, I'm not animating 8 legs on for this money.
And then he also did 20 Million Miles to Earth, which had this like creature that kind of, I think it's called the Ymir, and he kind of grows throughout the film until he gets to like an enormous height, and he kind of terrorizes Rome. And then he did Earth versus the Flying Saucers, and I think maybe his first color work was Animal World, which is a documentary where I think he and Willis O'Brien did some like stop motion dinosaurs at the beginning. But his first colour film, which I think was then what introduced Dynamation, I think, was The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad.
All right.
Which had
so that was in the 60s.
No, that was 58. 50s? That was.
Yeah.
And that had the Cyclops in it and the Serpent with him in, and it had one skeleton, not like 7, which he kind of does later on. But like this film is very similar to the Sinbad that we watched, in that the villain could kind of like control things and bring things to life.
Right.
So like the skeleton he brings to life and fights Sinbad. Sinbad's different in all these films, by the way. Played by
I was wondering that as I was watching it.
Played by a different white actor, we should probably put.
Yeah, that was the one other thing that was going through my mind as well. I was like, this is set like in the Middle East, and there's not one Middle Eastern actor. They're all played by guys named Garfield and things like that.
Oh no, do really suspicious accents.
Yeah.
Then he did the Three Worlds of Gulliver, which I've never seen that one.
I feel like I might have seen that when I was a kid, but I don't remember anything about it.
Then he did Mysterious Island, which is kind of like got giant kind of like insects and like crabs and cephalopods and bees and stuff, which sounds cool because it sounds like the deleted sequence in King Kong.
Which he did actually animate. Like for one of the Blu-ray or DVD releases, he shot that deleted scene or that lost scene.
Well, I know Peter Jackson did it.
I think that they might have been involved together with it. It's definitely
really. I don't know if he was involved. Maybe he's like consultant or something. Because by then he'd be pretty old. But
yeah, but Mysterious Island, I think, is referenced in the first Evil Dead.
Oh, okay.
Musically, at least, when they're all sat around having dinner and the cellar door pops open. The music cue apparently is a homage to the theme from Mysterious Island.
Then, arguably, his biggest film today was Jason and the Argonauts. Which,
that's definitely one he's most well known for.
I mean, I've seen it a few times, and I probably couldn't tell you which one Jason is if I was to watch.
He's the one fighting the Argonauts.
There's a few. Yeah, true. But you know, like the Talos sequence with the the big kind of metal statue that comes to life is fantastic, and then Hydra with all the heads and stuff like that, and then obviously the skeleton sequence is like everyone's favorite sequence because like it would take him like they'd produce the film, then it would probably take him 2 or 3 years because he's working by himself just to do all the effects. So God knows how he did these skeleton scenes, because if there's 7 skeletons in a shot,
you got to keep track of.
You've got to keep track of like okay, I've made sure this head's going forward and not back. This one's going back, not forward. This one's going side to side. Like just doing my shitty music video I did the other day, I only had 2 characters on a screen at any one time, and I've got the bonus of instant playback or going back frame by frame. Like, God, it must be a complete nightmare. And like, if I get a hand in shot, it's all right because I can mask it out, or I can like, if you look at my footage, it's so sloppy. God knows what Brandon thought of me, but like, he has to do everything perfect, otherwise.
That's why all the us digital filmmakers have got it easy, because we can actually fix it in post. Like that used to be the battle cry of a fucking loser, like who doesn't know what he's doing, but we can actually fix it in post. So who's the loser now?
But that has its advantages and disadvantages. I think because we've got too many options, it kind of
that's definitely the case.
It can
as well.
kind of go against you. Whereas I think back in the day
You've
where
commit to it.
film was expensive, you could only have one pass at a sequel. Like with stop motion, you can only start at the start and end at the end. You can't, like with CGI, you can kind of you do your keyframes and you can fudge around with it, and you can kind of, it's a bit more malleable.
Well, there's that shot in the first Gremlins where all the Gremlins come out of the darkness, and you see just
they're all running forward.
Yeah, and a light goes out, and that just happened while they were animating, and they thought, well, we can just put sound effects over it and carry on. So
there you go.
Just pretended it was the Gremlins knocking out a light because they were too deep into it.
So then what did he do after that then? He did First Men on the Moon. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but let's have a little look what that is. So yeah, it looks like a full feature film. It's like it's kind of like Men on the Moon, like aliens and stuff like that, I think. So yeah, then he made 1 Million Years BC, which is famous for Raquel Welch not wearing much, which seemed to be a common theme going forward, especially in the film that we watched today as well.
Yeah.
But apparently the budget for 1 Million Years BC was like under $500,000, which is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy, like what they could do with that money back in the day. Like a lot of British films were under $1 million. Yeah,
because it was produced by Hammer Films. And apparently, like, you can imagine though, they just shot in a quarry. And I can't imagine like especially her costume didn't cost much because there wasn't much to it. And then if you're only paying one effects guy, then okay, so following that, he did The Valley of Gwangi, which is another kind of dinosaur kind of.
That's cowboys and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That's popped up on Trailers from Hell a couple of times, I think.
Which it's got some like stop motion horses and stuff. Which is one of the things I love is like when he has like a human interacting with the stop motion puppet, he obviously has to do a stop motion human.
Yeah,
I really like that texture. I think it's pretty cool.
And he does it well. Like, there's been a few films that have done that, and it's just really badly pulled off. But you can actually get away with it, I think. Like we say, like he's really good at the motion and capturing like the essence of that creature, and he's got human movement down as well as centaurs and homunculi. Yeah,
and then so following Gwangi, he did the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, which we watched today. And then following that, he did Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, which is what I wanted to do originally. But doing my research, apparently the Golden Voyage of Sinbad was a better film of his 70s output, which was only 2 films.
And then I heard that one's more kind of tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, a bit more campy, I think. Yeah. Not to say that the one we watched wasn't, was like the height of, I don't know, adult cinema or whatever.
It was the Schindler's List of
Sinbad
stop
movies.
motion monsters.
And then his last ever film was then Clash of the Titans in 1981, which it's good, but it's very dated, even by I know it's like a 40-year-old film, but even at that point, like you already had Star Wars out, you had Alien. You had Close Encounters, Jaws, and just the way that it's put together and paced and stuff.
I think he
very
knew
slow.
he was kind of retiring, so this was his big blowout sale of every technique he'd ever learned up until that point, and he just crammed it all into one film.
He kind of redid a lot of things he'd already done in terms of like he did a lot of centaurs a lot of the time, or like things with hooved kind of creatures and things like that. But the Kraken was pretty cool. I loved his Medusa though. The Medusa looked amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing I mainly remember from it.
Yeah, and there was the little owl as well. I mean, it's still. I'd rather watch that than the shitty remake that they made like 10 years ago. Like it's got like the one thing you can say about Harryhausen films, they've all got heart to them. They've all got like they've got that loved feeling that someone's physically manipulated it with their hand, like it's been crafted by hand, and I really like that texture. Yeah. And the one thing I wanted to talk about was, by the way, that's James's baby. If you hear it in the background.
Oh, can you hear her? I didn't know how sensitive this microphone is. Yeah, she's being a jackass.
Shut up. Like we said earlier, like he pretty much did everything. He produced. He even came up with stories. He did all the storyboards, design work, the stop motion. He pretty much did everything shy of directing. And I think I've read two conflicting things. He either couldn't direct because he didn't want to, or the other one was that he couldn't direct because he couldn't, because of like unions and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So which one's true, I don't know. But
I mean, he's basically directing the animation, so it's not a huge step up. Maybe he just doesn't want the hassle of having to go to a set every day. Well,
I know that he clashed with a lot of directors, not all the directors he worked with, but a few, because all the animated sequences he would direct, because he knew exactly, everything had to be locked down. If you look at any of his shots with animation, there's no movement within the camera, it's locked down. And which with Star Wars coming like several years later, they started to move with motion control cameras and stuff like that, which he didn't have the benefit of that. And I think that's one of the things that put the nail in the coffin for him, that his films felt very kind of stagnant a bit. Whereas with your Indiana Joneses and Star Wars and stuff, things start to get more kinetic and faster, which has probably got too fast now with filmmaking. But anyway. But yeah, so he directed those sequences, and I think some directors that he worked with kind of clashed with him, didn't like that, or didn't wanted to do things a certain way. And I think it's fair to say he's an auteur filmmaker. Like all of his films feel like a Ray Harryhausen film, even if he didn't direct it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I can't even remember who directed this Sinbad film.
Let's have a look.
It was George something, was it?
George Hessler. Let's see what else he's done.
Gordon Hessler.
Gordon Hessler, sorry. It looked like he did a lot of TV. But I know the writer of this film he created the Avengers, as in the...
when I saw his name coming up, I knew he was a TV guy, but I thought it was the writer of Porridge.
Oh.
But, I think he must have a similar name. I can't remember who did it, though.
So like I said, so he's like an auteur filmmaker, like special effects artist. I can't think of many others like him. I mean, I guess Douglas Trumbull, maybe.
Yeah, I mean the special effects guys, like the best ones are the ones who the filmmakers allow to direct their stuff. Like George Romero always deferred to Tom Savini when it came to the effects stuff, because the effects guys know how to shoot it so it looks best.
Yeah, and if you ever see any Tom Savini's effects in a film, they're Tom Savini effects. They've got a very distinct look to them. Like the blood is very crimson-y red, and it looks make-up-y, but that's part of the charm to it. Do you know what I mean? And then he became a director, and he did a remake of Night of the Living Dead and stuff like that.
He never got to do the film that I always wanted to see, though. He was pimping a lot in the late 90s, Vampirates.
Vampirates.
Yeah.
And then who else is there? There's Douglas Trumbull, as I said before. He was famous for 2001. He did Silent Running. He did another film, didn't he?
I think so. I can't remember what it was.
Silent Running's amazing, though.
Yeah, they're getting a Blu-ray re-release at some point in the near future.
And I believe he's worked fairly recently. I don't know if he worked on...
He worked on Blade Runner as well.
That was it, yeah. And then I'm trying to think who else. You've got like Stan Winston.
Trumbull was a producer on The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then Bigfoot.
Oh, interesting. I mean, he's still kicking it. He's still going.
Yeah. He's done a lot of short stuff.
But I'd say
Brainstorm was the other film he directed.
Well, I'd say Ray Harryhausen is in a very small club of like special effects artists who pretty much dominate a film.
Yeah, your cine Easts are going to know who Douglas Trumbull is, whereas your average film viewer is likely to know who Harryhausen is, or have heard of him.
Like I was looking at like this video on YouTube. It's like a Channel 4 documentary from about 20 years ago, and just all the comments are from kids, like 12-year-old kids, just talking about how much they love Ray Harryhausen. And these are only from like a year ago, and it's just amazing that he's still influencing like young kids to become stop motion animators. I mean, please stop, because I don't want you to take my job. But no, it's great, really.
There was a documentary about Phil Tippett on TV the other night, on Vice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's basically just a long interview with him, and a little tour of his shop, and basically him lamenting getting the gig on Jurassic Park and then having it snatched away mid-production when they did those CGI tests, and how he felt about it.
I mean, he got to stay on the film, though, and he won an Oscar. So.
He did, but he realised, like...
he had to shift gears very quickly.
The gig is up, yeah. So he had to do something.
So, yeah, if anybody doesn't know, Phil Tippett is like... he worked on the original Star Wars. He did, like, the chess sequences and stuff like that.
And the original Piranha as well.
Yeah. And then...
which I consider more definitive.
And then he was going to do the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. And if you get the Blu-ray, there's loads of his like Velociraptor and T-Rex tests, and they look amazing. And he even he did animatics for the film, all in stop motion. And his animatics are better than my my full-on professional attempts. But and I think now he's just doing his more like vanity project, so it's like called Mad God or something.
Mad God, yeah.
And it's like
about that in the documentary.
It's a crowd-funded, it's almost like experimental animation, really, and it's pretty dark and bleak and really dystopian weird. And stuff. Yeah. And it looks really cool. It's well animated. And if you go on YouTube, he's got a channel, and they're constantly he's constantly talking about like his Ed 209 stuff from RoboCop and Jurassic Park, and showing you around his studio, and you see like his team that work with him. But anyway. He's not Ray Harryhausen. So anyway, let's get into the film that we watched, and that is The Golden Voyage of Sinbad from 1973.
Sorcerer of the black arts, the gold-helmet faceless vizier, the death frigate centaur on the griffin, the six-armed goddess of evil. The flying homunculus. The savage siren on a rampage. The duel with the vanishing sorcerer. The one-eyed centaur. pinnacle of all knowledge. The fountain of destiny.
So, yeah, what did you think of the film then, James?
Well, like I was saying earlier, it's not a genre that I usually go for, but you know, once I do sit down with them, I usually enjoy them. It's just not something that really attracts my interest. But I did enjoy this film. It's I was shocked that it's from 1973 though.
Yeah, it feels like something from the late 50s or something. The way it's paced, it is very slow. I mean,
and just the general cinematography and style of the whole thing, it feels very 60s to me.
Yeah, it's very flat, I'd say. And you know, again, it's like 3 locations, and you know, you're pretty much just waiting for every Ray Harryhausen sequence, really.
Yeah, I felt like maybe they didn't have the money for it because there wasn't like it was quite a large gap between the Harryhausen creatures. Like you had the little rat creature at the beginning. Well, should we tackle it like?
Well, that documentary I was watching today. I think it was either Joe Dante or I've forgotten who else was on the documentary, or James Cameron. One of them said basically that, you know, all you're doing when you're watching a Ray Harryhausen film is just waiting for one of his sequences, and you might be waiting 20 to 30 minutes for each, and it's just a bunch of people running around with sticks for the most part until you get to the next special effects monster.
Yeah.
And, you know, so the film starts. So basically, I guess we'll start off by saying Sinbad is kind of part of like the Arabian Nights, kind of like it's like.
Yeah, it's like a
mythological
not so much a franchise,
lore,
but it's yeah.
You know, it's books that date back centuries, and you know they got kind of rewritten and people added to them over time. And apparently, Sinbad was one of the latter characters that was in the Arabian Nights, or there's another name for it, but I can't quite remember. But I think Aladdin's part of that story as well. Like it's one of the stories within the Arabian Nights. And Sinbad is just a sailor basically who kind of gets in adventures.
Yeah, I always pictured Sinbad as like just some wiry, like an Aladdin type, some wiry little kid, like barely a teenager, like the kid who's kind of conscripted onto the boat by his dad, who tells him to get a life.
Oh yeah,
out to sea. That's who I pictured Sinbad to be, not this like middle-aged dude,
white dude from England. So yeah, I think this film kind of came out of just sketches and just ideas that Ray Harryhausen had, just kind of things that interest him, like, you know, statues coming to life and giant beasts and things like that. And I think he just kind of arbitrarily just picked Sinbad to be his lead character because he's like an adventure character. And I think it took like a while for them to kind of formulate a script around his kind of ideas. Apparently one of the ideas had like giant snakes, and the producer Charles, I've forgotten his surname, but yeah, anyway, he had an aversion to snakes, and he also felt that the snakes would upset pregnant women, which sounds a bit odd.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll start from the beginning then. So it starts off with, is it Sinbad's on the boat, or do you see the flying little rat monkey thing?
I believe it starts with them on the boat,
yeah,
and then they hear the noise and see the rat thing. Like it basically starts right away. There's no lead up to it. It's like opening credits. They're on a boat. Shit starts happening.
You don't really get to know who any of these people in this film are whatsoever.
No, afterwards I did have to check to see who the character names were.
Yeah, like, don't you think though? You know, he's like right hand man. Do you remember the Harry Enfield sketch where there was the 2 gay policemen?
Yes,
yeah. He looked like one of those with the handlebar moustache and like the kind of the 70s hair bob thing going on.
One of the other crew I found really distracting because he looks like Jesus, Larry David's, is it Gardner in one episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Is he the guy with the really deep voice? The kind of...
It's a while since I watched the episode, but he basically got stood on a nail in Larry David's office, and Larry pulled the nail out, and I can't remember what happened in between, but he ends up chasing Larry David with a cross at the end of the episode. So that's all I was thinking about whenever he appeared on screen.
So yeah. Anyway, this like rat monkey thing flies overhead, and they kind of try to shoot it with arrows, don't they? And they miss. But it
drops
this kind of part of an amulet or something like that. Not an amulet, but there's
a huge amulet.
Yeah. And then Sinbad's like, right, this is mine. I'm going to be wearing this.
Finders keepers.
And then they stumble upon some land, or they see land in the distance, and they kind of... The first person he meets when he's on land is Tom Baker, isn't it? This Jafar.
Well,
Jafar?
I don't think it's Jafar.
It's Jaffa or something. It's Jaffa. So however you want to pronounce it. Yeah.
But yeah, once he puts on the amulet, or the partial amulet, he has a dream.
That's it. Yeah, he has a dream.
Yeah, they're in a storm, and he sees a vision of this girl with an eye.
The hand. Yeah, the eyeball.
Yeah, some various other wacky shit, and I think the storm pulls them to that.
Oh,
island.
Is that what happens? Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, they immediately run into Tom Baker once they get there. It was like, looks like you're wearing my shit, Dicker.
Yeah, give me the amulet, and then I think he does the old switcheroo and just kills the one guy that was with him, and then just rides off on the other guy's horse into town. He's followed by Jafar into the town. Somehow they get separated, and Sinbad meets the king. I don't know, the ruler of this town, or
I think he's like a caretaker type ruler. I think the actual king is dead or missing or something, and he's just kind of running things until they get shit worked out.
But he has it
was kind of confusing.
He has a metal mask over his face that kind of hides his face because it's been disfigured.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, I thought. Although, yeah, I did think that was going to play more into the film.
It does later on at the end.
I mean, barely. It's basically used to frighten some guys, and then he puts the mask back on.
So he takes Sinbad downstairs into this little cave area where it's kind of got some paintings on the wall. And this painting's of a map. And then, he gives... this guy gives Sinbad the other part of... another third of this amulet thing, and he clips it together. And then Sinbad works out that if you hold it in front of light, it kind of casts a shadow on the wall, a bit like Indiana Jones, and kind of shows the way basically to this mysterious island.
It kind of reminded me of Hellboy 2, the crown in 3 parts.
Oh,
They have to put together. I've literally just realised that now. I spent the entire film going, this.
Well, I'm sure Del Toro's obsessed with Ray Harryhausen's work and stuff.
Yeah, I think he's popped up many times.
So are they
related stuff?
I can't remember if they're actually after the crown or if they're after the fountain. This guy.
I don't think they know they're after the fountain. I think they're just trying to put the crown together, and they just know it will unlock some kind of mystical knowledge.
Okay.
It's only when they get to the cave later on that they find out what it actually is that they're after.
So they're being watched by this rat monkey thing, and you find out this rat monkey is kind of part of Jafar. He kind of he creates it, and it's kind of part of him. And whenever he creates these kind of beings, it kind of ages him and takes away from his power. So he's looking for this fountain of youth kind of power to kind of restore him and kind of make him immortal, I guess, and ever all powerful. And they as they catch this little rat monkey thing, it kind of disintegrates or explodes in their hands.
Yeah, they have a little chase, and then it just kind of explodes into leaves, it looked like. So
Sinbad's got a quest now. He's going to this mysterious island. The guy's going with him with the metal face. As he's walking around, he's collared by this kind of peddler, this salesman, or
shopkeep,
or a pimp. I don't know what he is, but and he basically wants his son to kind of do something. So he's like, "Look, I'll pay you money if you bring him on board your ship to give him some work." And then Sinbad's like, "No," and he keeps raising the price. And then all of a sudden, he meets this girl who is his servant or his slave.
Yeah, slave.
Who is rather attractive. Just going to lay it out there. She's definitely
Caroline
very
Munro.
she's definitely very French or something like that.
She's in a Bond film.
Is she?
Yeah, I think it's Spy Who Loved Me. She's also been in a bunch of Hammer films as well, I think.
I think she has about 3 lines in the entire film.
Yeah, she has very little to do.
She does nothing really. Like,
No.
I don't even know what the point. Like, so does he see her hand in this
Yeah,
sequence?
that's a big deal throughout the film. This whole
Which
eyeball
doesn't
on the
really do
palm.
much.
No, she's literally a distraction, both for the audience and the characters.
So he sees this eyeball tattoo on her hand. I mean, it looks like it's been drawn on with face paint. It's so bad.
It's a marking I've had since birth that won't come off. I'm like, are you sure? Just run it under a tap.
So he takes this lad and this girl on board their ship, and they venture on towards, this mysterious island. Jafar is following them, and then one night he turns like their ship figurehead into a living creature, I guess.
Yeah.
So this
almost like a golem type thing.
Yeah, and he's basically after the map so he can get to the island before Sinbad.
Mm.
It's quite a cool sequence, though, I thought.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the reveal of it coming to life, where the waster boy is just kind of chilling out at the front, and they have a little comedy routine of where he starts moving, and he's not sure if he's drunk or if it is moving. And that whole separating from the boat, I thought was quite cool as well.
Well, yeah, and I tell you what I really liked as well: the physical destruction of the cabin.
Yeah.
With the stop motion character looked really cool. I thought it was really well done, put together. And again, like there are camera moves in this film, and there's dollies and there's zooms and stuff. But as soon as there's a special effects, it's pretty much locked. I was kind of expecting when it fell into the water that it was going to carry on walking.
Yeah, it just kind of gives up at that point.
Floats towards Jafar because they're trying to.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do some underwater stop motion when it sinks to the bottom, and Tom Baker's like return, and then it starts moving.
So by bringing this figurehead to life again, it's like lowering his life, and he's like aging. Like, apparently Tom Baker was 37 when he made this film, so he was the same age as us, or give or take a few years. And I was thinking, fuck, man, he looks old. And I mean, obviously they age him throughout the film, and the age makeup's actually quite good, I think, because they show it in
really tight
close-ups,
close-up,
and it looks really good. And it's as good as like Back to the Future kind of old age makeup, I think. I don't know if it's that old age makeup where you kind of stretch your face and then you apply it.
It's stretch and stipple,
and then you let go, and it just kind of like crinkles, but
it looks like it looks really the texture of it doesn't look very stippled when they do that really tight close up on it.
And they grey his beard and stuff like that. It looks good. So yeah, anyway, so Tom Baker, Jafar gets the kind of the map to the mysterious island, because Sinbad was trying to redirect them through the kind of rocks and the smoke, because not the smoke but the mist or whatever,
the fog,
because he's charted these waters before, so he knew where he was going, so he could kind of lure Jafar into this area.
He'd been there once before.
So yeah, and also so on the ship as well later on, you get some interaction with this girl and Sinbad. And so obviously she's a freed slave now, yet all she's doing is slave work. So she's organising she's organising his shit. She's doing all their washing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think maybe my favourite part in the film is where Sinbad is like, you're a free woman now. You're owned by no one. No one has the right to own you, and you're your own person. Make me a drink.
Yeah.
He does come back with please, but he has just given.
I was thinking, I was like, "Where's the please?" And he does. To be fair, he does come back with please.
But
and it's like
to say she's a freed woman, like, give her some time to do some shit herself.
It's not like it's a hard task just to pour some liquid.
Yeah, he was literally standing next to it when he asked her to do it, and then he fucked off.
Lazy fuck. I think this Sinbad is a prick, massive prick. So yeah, then they end up on the island.
Tom Baker's 5 minutes behind him by the looks of it.
Yeah. Did you notice though that they obviously superimposed like some heads on the rocks and stuff like that?
I mean, you couldn't not notice.
Yeah, the color grading wasn't quite matched, and they were very much more in focus than everything else. But it sets the mood. Yeah. So they venture forward. And they see this like kind of witchy kind of character in the distance. They're following that. Tom Baker gets to the island. Yeah?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they are literally like 2 minutes behind them.
Yeah.
Like, they get to the island, walk up a hill, and then Tom Baker arrives.
So anyway, they
don't know why they didn't just take the same boat.
They've reached this kind of castle, not castle, but this kind of stone building. They go inside this like little entrance. They go down the stairs, and they encounter this kind of like ghostly being. I thought it looked really cool though. This like face that came out of the well, like that witch woman kind of conjured it out of the well.
Yeah,
and basically he basically,
it was like the mystical operator. They came in and said, "We need to talk about this thing," and she did a chant, and the face appeared.
Yeah, he's basically like the Wizard of Oz or whatever, basically explaining. You need to get the third part of the amulet, which is down below. Like, it basically sets out their quest of what they're going to do for the next 4 minutes.
I did like that performance. Did you see who it was?
No.
Robert Shaw.
Was it Robert Shaw?
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah. I did see a little bit of Quint in it.
Welcome back to the podcast, Robert Shaw from Taking of Pelham 123. No way. I'm gonna have to watch that again now. But it looked really cool though. It kind of did look like a Mighty Boosh kind of thing because he had horns going out of his head and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool makeup.
There's all flames going around him and stuff like that. It did cut to these weird close-ups of his mouth every now and again, which I thought was weird.
That's when it felt the most Quint-like to me. That's when it was like, you need to go north.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to a really close.
I didn't know if the mouth was then upside down. You know, when you do that thing where you speak upside down and you put eyes on your chin or something. I didn't know if they did that kind of effect. But anyway.
It's just a really weird scene. I think it was edited quite because they cut to the close-up.
Yeah.
Within a special effects, within the same shot.
So it looked weird. It looked a bit jarring. But anyway, Jafar's outside and he's got this like box of basically like potions and stuff, and he blows up the entrance to the caves. They can't get out, but you know, they managed to MacGyver like a grapple hook system out of like some metal.
He's take off all your belts and turbans, but Sinbad keeps his turban on.
Yeah, there's fucking shit. And it doesn't let the woman up first. He goes up first.
Yeah.
And
what does he say? Because the waster boy says, "I'm the lightest. I'll go up." And then Sinbad's like, "What does he say? Yes, but I'm the most cunning." Or,
yeah.
Yes, but I'm the bigger dickhead here.
So yeah, basically, there's there just happens to be a hole above them where they are, so they fire this kind of. It's quite cool though. How he fires the grapple hook where he lies down. And fires it with his feet.
Yeah.
And he fires this grapple hook and climbs up. And I think the little rat monkey's in there again. Like he's conjuring the rat monkey thing.
That was the effect shot that I was quite impressed by when Tom Baker creates it when they're on the boat. That's when Harryhausen did that kind of. It looked like it might have just been a really badly comped shot, but
do you remember it's on his hand and it flies off his hand?
That was a good shot as well, but this is when it's on the table.
Oh, yeah, it looks really good there.
And it's in the foreground and Baker's behind him. It looks like the creature is out of focus, and I think that's the best looking shot.
It does cut then though when he walks away and he's got like just a static one that's just wobbling around on his own.
Yeah.
But so yeah. Anyway, back to the well. They get out of the well, and they make their way to this. Where do they go? Like an.
It's north.
That's
north.
As
much as I remembered, yeah.
And
it's basically another kind of temple built into a mountain.
But Jafar's beaten them to it. Or Jafar? I don't know. Tom Baker has beaten them to it. And there's this wicked statue in there of like a sixth arm goddess. And apparently Ray Harryhausen was annoyed because he'd already designed and made the stop motion model and sent a model of the maquette to the production team in Spain. Because I think a lot of Ray Harryhausen films were shot in Europe to kind of keep costs down and stuff, like Spain or Italy or whatever.
I mean, the Fast and the Furious shot in Tenerife.
Did it?
So the last, the
I've
one
not seen
that I saw the first one when it came out, and that's it. But the sixth one, I think, my friend Nicola worked on it, and on the second unit, and they shot all the car chase stuff in Tenerife.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was annoyed because the goddess face they made it more masculine in the full size model, and he wasn't very happy with it. and there wasn't enough time to change it when they got to set. But anyway, so he like casts a spell on it, and he throws one of his like little test tube things on
Well,
it.
yeah. First, when he walks in, he's confronted with the natives.
Oh yes, I forgot about the green natives that kind of
Yeah,
again
that
look like
was-
sing out Mighty Boosh, and they kind of
Yeah, and they're all clearly white guys again.
yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was a weird color timing thing. Like they just looked green, but no, they are actually green
Yeah.
natives.
Oh, the one thing I forgot to point out, when they're in the cave, the lighting is awesome. It's almost like
Yeah,
Dario
I was gonna say that.
Argento, like
Yeah, I really liked that.
Giallo kind of lighting, like proper reds and greens and pinks and purples.
It really gives it some dimension that
Yeah,
the
it's
rest of
pretty
the film
cool.
doesn't have.
Like especially when you see it lit on the goddess, the greens and the purples. And it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool. You can tell though, again, when it's becomes the special effects, they take away those lights and they kind of just have more traditional lights. I
There
think.
was a little bit on the goddess statue because I noticed
on the
like,
stop motion one.
Yeah, yeah. When it cuts to the wide, there's still a little bit of an edge of green on one side of her. The
Okay,
green
fair
light was
enough.
kind of behind her up on the pedestal.
I take it
And there
back.
was, I only noticed it in one shot, but that was the best looking shot I think of that sequence. The initial like coming down and doing the dance with the kind of jerky neck thing.
That was wicked. So he. I can't remember if he starts looking for the other part of the amulet.
That was my other favorite part.
Well, he's just searching through all these boxes.
Yeah,
These
it's like,
treasure boxes.
I will find this amulet. And he looks through two boxes and he's like, I can't find it!
He's just like rummaging around. So yeah, then Sinbad and his crew come in, and then the goddess like steps out, and then this sequence is amazing when she starts dancing.
Mm.
I really like that. Like really good animation. Like I've got a thing for characters with 6 arms and stuff. So if you ever watch some of my music videos, you'll see like multiple limbed
Yeah,
characters and stuff like that. One of my fetishes.
I hadn't thought about it, but now you mention it, it does pop up quite a lot.
What was I going to say?
That's when she gets, gang violence on her ass and just whips out these switchblades.
Yeah,
from
well,
each of
she
her
picks
arms.
up the one sword, and then all of a sudden she just conjures 5 others, and you're like, hang on a minute, where did these come from? But like the animation and the timing is fantastic. It's so good. Like
Because there's like three of the live action humans are fighting.
yeah, it's not like
They're
we'll
at
all
the same
take it in
time.
turns. It's all at the same
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and you can tell like I know it's shit, but like Revenge of the Sith with General Grievous, and he's kind of got like 6 arms and he's got all the lightsabers, and you can tell they're basically aping this film with that, but nowhere near as good as this. I just thought it was a really cool sequence. I really liked it. It was really, really well done. The animations, like the character, like who else would give a character to this kind of like benevolent, weird statue? I don't know, this like just goddess
it's-
statue that's kind of emotionless. But he
They're all kind of
gives-
very clearly defined as characters.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it doesn't move or act in the same way as the other statue
Yeah,
creature
yeah.
on the boat. It's it's its own distinct entity.
And eventually, I think it's the young lad who kind of saves
Yeah.
saves Sinbad and like basically kicks it to the floor and it falls. A lot of his characters, if you notice, they fall and break. That's how a lot of like all the skeletons in the other Sinbad or Jason and the Argonauts, they
Jason,
fall
yeah.
because they just fall and break. So when it falls and breaks, I think the native people kind of see it because it's their god. They're kind of like,
Well, the missing piece is inside the statue.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Sinbad picks that up, and then Tom Baker reappears, and he basically grasses him up to the natives, and he's like, "Look what Sinbad did to your
because they did
statue."
to your statue. Yeah. So then they take the woman.
Well, first they strap Sinbad down, and they're gonna sacrifice him, and she's like, "No," and holds her hand up, and they see the eye, and they go, "Oh, actually, we'll sacrifice you instead."
Yeah.
And that's the entire purpose of the eye. It has no other relevance.
Yeah, so they kind of winch her down into this pit where you see this centaur. Is it like a centaur? Yeah.
Cyclops centaur.
Yeah. Comes out. It looks cool. It's got a weird hairdo though.
I do like the fact that this just the sound it makes is just like a pissed off guy. It's just like ah! Ah!
But yeah, so he picks her up, takes her away. They make their way down into the pit and go to rescue her basically. Sinbad finds her, and then Jafar finds his way to the
fountain, which I thought was a pretty cool effect as well.
Apparently, Harryhausen wants it to be a fountain of flame and water.
Right.
But just chose to just do water instead.
Yeah. He put some. I did like the lighting effects. Like he did put an orange light.
Oh yeah,
on
it was
which I
pretty
thought
cool.
looked
Yeah,
very
like the
cool.
colours do change, and especially later on it changes. But
yeah. I thought the matte work as well, because that's a miniature, the whole fountain thing. And
yeah, it
I
looked
thought
really
the
good.
shots of them walking in front of it looked really good.
It looked better than some of the earlier ones. So like when they walk towards the ruined castle where they kind of meet the head, the Robert Shaw head.
Weak. Yeah.
And then when they go into the building again, when they're met by the native folk, because they're green, and I'm guessing they're on a green screen or a blue screen. They just looked weird.
I figure it's blue screen. I think green screen didn't come on until
they just looked like a weird shade of brown, though.
Yeah, it was very. It took me a while to figure out what color they actually were.
But anyway,
how racist it was.
In the in the fountain room, Jafar is kind of getting his way closer and closer to the fountain to kind of replenish himself, which he eventually does. Sinbad comes in, I think, with he and his crew. I can't remember.
Yeah, and they just kind of hang back for a while, because Tom Baker conjures the centaur, and the griffin for some reason.
I don't know where or what the griffin has anything to do with it, but
it's the fountain controls like forces of good and evil, and the centaur is the evil, and the griffin is the good.
Right. Okay.
So he conjures those to fight, I think, so he can take control of the forces of evil. And then he does a bitch move and slices the griffin's leg with a sword whilst destroying the centaur, allowing it to get the upper hand.
That shit.
So yeah, it ends up killing the griffin.
So who kills the centaur? Is it Sinbad?
That's when Sinbad. Yeah, I think that's when they start fighting, and he leaps on its back,
and you get the stop motion Sinbad.
Yeah. And he stabs it.
I would say when he takes on Jafar, that was pretty weak because Jafar's in the fountain, so you can't really see it, and he just kind of stabs him, and it's like a bit of a weak kind of like a limp stab that like you don't even see. Like the stabbing and fighting with the goddess was much better, and you felt the contact, whereas with this you just didn't feel any.
Yeah, it's well, he was fighting nothing, wasn't he? Because
I forgot he had the shield which could turn him invisible.
Yeah, so he's basically he's just swinging at nothing, probably on the set.
Yeah, forgot about that. He had his little green screen or blue screen shield, so he could kind of remove it. But once he kills Jafar, there's a wicked. It turns the fountain blood red.
Yeah,
and it does look pretty cool, to be fair.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether it was meant to be blood or whether it was just meant to be another kind of weird lighting effect, but it really looks like blood, and there's quite a lot of it.
Yeah,
it's almost like Army of Darkness style.
Yeah, just gushing out of the.
Which looked like it might be a lot for an early 70s audience, as for a kids' film.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a quote somewhere, I think I read it on Wikipedia, where, they wanted it to be sexy, but it had to be cheese sexy, so that's why you've got the voluptuous,
Caroline Munro.
Yeah, the female
kind of
character.
Busting at the seams, but the seams very much remain in place.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Apparently, though, he said he was upset, the producer said he was upset with the portrayal of Sinbad in the film, because he didn't want... Just because the cultural reappropriation of a white guy playing a Middle Eastern, and then he did the accent. Whether or not he at the time felt like this, or in retrospect, is kind of like
the accent was a step
maybe
too far.
We shouldn't have done that.
I mean, I would say the accent is probably the least egregious of the things. I mean, it's part of it, but I think the whole concept is flawed from the beginning. If you're talking about cultural appropriation.
And then in the reflection, after he's killed Jafar, in the reflection, you see Sinbad and the girl, and he's kind of got the crown on his head. And then he bends down and pulls the crown out of the fountain. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Then puts it on top of Metalhead's head. And then in what looks like just the shittiest transition ever between 3 different wipes.
Yeah, that is a very much Wolfman style transformation of the slow dissolves between different stages.
I feel like Harryhausen had enough by then. He was like, "Fuck it,
Yeah,
that'll do." And basically,
I mean, they just dissolved, so he probably wasn't even involved with that shot.
So earlier on, I can't remember what point you actually see his real face.
It was when they were with the natives and they were trying to get away, when they were about to sacrifice. I guess it's when they're trying to sacrifice Sinbad. He's like, "Show him your face."
I don't know why, I can't remember.
Yeah, and he lifts up his helmet, and they're all like, "Ooh," and then they run away.
Was it meant to be Jafar did that to his face? I can't remember.
Yeah, he basically, I think it was in that tomb they were in at the beginning where they put together the map.
Did he throw one of his little yellow bombs at him?
Yeah, he set the room on fire with it and locked him in it, so he was horribly burned.
Yeah, so after that, you see him as he was originally, all white with a big white beard and that. And then I guess that's where it kind of ends. It ends on the ship, and that ends on a lol, if I remember. It ends on a joke, or like them kind of doing that.
Waster Boy claims to be a great seaman, and then falls off the perch.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, really. I think.
Yeah, it does sound like we shat on it quite a lot, but I found it really enjoyable.
It's like one of those perfect. It's 2:00 on a Sunday on Channel 4, and you're watching one of these kind of films on an Easter Sunday or something like that. And it's I'll watch more of them. It requires no, like, it seems to be though that I don't remember any of it though. Talking about it, I've forgotten a lot of it. But they're like just easy breezy watches. Really, they're not really that complex, and
really good music as well.
I was thinking that actually.
Miklos Rozsa, who was the composer, who was like one of the great composers of the Golden Age. He did Spellbound, was one of his big ones, the Hitchcock film.
Oh, okay.
He did Time After Time as well, which is the one that I listen to quite a lot.
Well, we're talking about that in a few weeks. I think it's the week after, because you're back next week to talk about I Spit on Your Grave.
Oh, is it next week?
I don't know, something like that. Yeah,
and then he also did Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
I like that film.
Yeah. Because all that whole film's a throwback, so they were just hiring people like costume designers and cinematographers and things from the 40s, and they got Miklos Rozsa to do the score.
Have you got the book Wild and Crazy Guys when they talk about the making of that?
No, but it is on my wish list, and I need to get around to it. Yeah,
it is a good book.
I've got a load of books to read. Have you seen the thickness of that George Romero book?
What George Romero book?
A novel that he started writing before he died has been finished by another author who works with Guillermo del Toro a lot.
On his books, like Stay or whatever.
No, it was he co-created Troll Hunters, the animated show.
Oh, okay.
And he wrote the novelization of Shape of Water as well.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, The Living Dead is the book, and it's like 700 pages. So I've got that. I've got Brian De Palma's book to read as well, although that looks like a breezier read. I've got a whole pile of stuff that I need to look at and just never get around to.
So anyway, what would you give the Golden Voyage of Sinbad out of 5?
Out of 5, a high 3, low 4, I think.
Yeah, I'd give it a 3.5, I think.
Yeah.
I'd definitely like it if there was a few more sequences in it. Like, there's definitely a lull after the wooden, the figurehead, until you get to the statue that comes alive. I think there's definitely something they could have put.
Yeah, I mean, once they get to the island, it kind of picks up a bit. But that first half of the film is basically the wooden figurehead is the only effect sequence. Yeah, they could have done with picking up the pace a bit, but
I think the budget the budget was 2 million, which I think I tried to work it out, and like if you've ever listened to this podcast before, me and Liam are really bad at working out money differences, not differences, what you call it, exchanges. I don't know. Inflation. So yeah, apparently I think it works out to about 11 million nowadays. But,
which ain't too shabby.
Yeah, that's an episode of Game of Thrones, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a fun time with it, and I'm definitely going to watch more of them. I think I'm definitely going to.
Yeah, I do regret missing out on those Ray Harryhausen box sets that came out.
I've got one of them which has got like 3 films, and I think it's got Tim Burton commentaries on it.
Oh, really?
So God knows what Tim Burton's got to say, because like he can barely string a sentence together if you ever listen to any of his own commentary tracks. So
I haven't, but I assumed from the look of him he was a mumbler.
yeah, he's definitely a mumbler.
He says mumbling.
But yeah, it's a shame though that stop motion hasn't gone away. There are feature films made with stop motion, especially with like Leica and Aardman. But it's a shame that they're not
exclusively, like it's not used
there's
in a live action context.
There's a few on Netflix, like there's the little something boy, it's all made out of paper and stuff like that. But it's a shame that they don't use it as a special effect anymore in films. Even like, do you know what I mean? Like I know Wes Anderson does his stop motion films, but I'd like it if it was brought back again, like Mars Attacks,
like a RoboCop or something.
Yeah, like Mars Attacks was supposed to be stop motion aliens,
and
I just can't help but think that would have made that film that much better.
Yeah,
I mean, I like Mars Attacks, but I think
do too.
But I think that was the start of the fall for me with Tim Burton. Like that's when he dropped that texture, that kind of technique, and just went full on CGI with all of his films.
I think Sleepy Hollow is the last one.
Yeah, I really like Sleepy Hollow. There's no stop motion in it though.
No. Oh no, I did see Corpse Bride, but I think that's the.
Well,
last
I mean, like
Burton
aside
movie
from
I've seen.
his like Frankenweenie and Corpse Bride, like he hasn't incorporated it into a live action film in a long time, and I think
that's the thing. Like the main downfall for stop motion, I think, because Harryhausen showed that you can get the movement right, and Phil Tippett showed you can get the motion blur on it, so it looks more realistic. The compositing is what let down a lot of stop motion because it doesn't match into the footage. With digital compositing, it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah,
I remember seeing like a test by some indie filmmaker like 10 years ago. They'd done a little stop motion kind of centaur creature running around some old ruins that they were at. This was like a European guy. It might have been in Greece or something. And he just had some footage of old ruins, and he composited this creature onto it, and it looked really fucking good. And this is just a guy with a home computer. So it really needs somebody to like Guillermo del Toro needs to
he needs to
step up and do
it.
So
grow
he
some
can prove
balls.
that it can be done.
Your Jaegers should have all been stop motion.
Yeah. It works for Stuart Gordon. It can work for Guillermo del Toro.
What was it? Robot Jocks.
Yeah. Fucking badass movie. Robot with a chainsaw dick.
There was actually a short Australian film that came out recently. It's called Rebooted. It's only about 12 minutes long, and you can watch it online. But basically, it's about like a Harryhausen-esque skeleton that was created for a film way back when. And he finds out the film's being rebooted, and he tries to like kind of ease his way in the film. It's about how he kind of comes to terms with being like an outdated special effect. It's really, 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 really good. And it's directed by Michael Shanks. And the animation is by Samuel Lewis. It's really good. Definitely worth a watch. So on that note, I think we'll call it a day. But thank you very much for filling in today, James. I really appreciate it. Why don't you tell the fine folks where they can find you out there on all the social media platforms?
Yes, absolutely. My website is untamedAggression.com. So you'll find links to all my social medias. And if you want to check out Heads Are Poppin', that's at headsarpoppin.com.
Awesome. So go check out James and follow his film exploits. Thank you very much for helping me out and co-hosting today's episode. I really appreciate
Glad
it.
To be here. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and we'll see you again next week for I Spit on Your Grave.
Indeed.
Or is it I Spat on Your Grave? No, I Spit on
I Spit on Your Grave, yeah. I probably should get around to watching it.
Anyway. So yeah, thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on the various platforms. So, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify. Yeah, you can always reach out to us on Twitter. We are at Adjust Your Track. That's a YR, not a your. And remember, if the picture's bad, don't forget to adjust your tracking.